Howdy y'all, Taika here and welcome to another educational adventure. Today we will be discussing the history and appearances of another primal who was introduced in the Heavensward expansion. Get ready for our foe, King Thordan. Before we get started, please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy this video and would like to see more. I'm always interested in lore and making these sure are fun. Now, let's get back to the history. I know I have that book on Thordan somewhere. Here we are. Let's begin just like we have before, well before our time as an adventurer. This story begins well before we ever meet King Thordan in a primal form. For this, we will need to go back centuries to the lands of Kurthis. Elizans migrated to the southern portion of Abalathia's spine. This is where they first met dragons. The migration and interaction started a war between dragon and man for the land, which Shiva stopped due to her unity with Heavensward. Around 200 years after this happened, Thordan came into the picture. Back even to this time, the Ascians were doing their thing and they informed Thordan of the power of a dragon's eyes. The Ascians wanted to destroy the peace that was formed by Shiva and Heavensward, and they knew passing this information would be the key. Upon learning this, Thordan and his 12 trusted knights invited Ratatoskr to speak on behalf of the dragons to continue their peace. Ratatoskr was the younger sibling of the first brood that arrived to this star. Ratatoskr wanted there to be an everlasting peace and wanted to coexist with Elizans and other man. During their meeting, Thordan asked Ratatoskr about her brood brother Nidhogg and what he thought about man. She replied that Nidhogg believed man could not protect this star, and it should be left to the first brood's 7 great worms. Those are the original dragons. Thordan did not like this answer. Not only did he fear the dragons would rule or one day replace man, but he was angry that they held such a low regard for them. Due to this, Thordan and his knights murdered Ratatoskr and stole her eyes, consuming the eyes for their own power. Nidhogg learned of this and sought revenge, but that ended with his own eyes being taken. He fled and informed the one who helped start this peace, Heavensward, of the betrayal, and vowed revenge on Thordan and all who called Ishgard their home, even if Heavensward did not agree to partake in this vengeance. During the fight with Nidhogg, Thordan, along with 4 of his knights, perished. His son, Haldrath, was the one who actually took Nidhogg's eyes. After the murder of Ratatoskr and the fight with Nidhogg, Haldrath stepped down by abdicating from the throne, vowing then to protect the people of Ishgard from their fate by Thordan's hand. He became the first Azure Dragoon. This is also when 3 other knights left due to their deeds, and the 4 remaining knights formed the 4 high houses of Ishgard. In time, Haldrath, still with the 2 eyes from Nidhogg, was consumed by their power and passed away. He was entombed with the right eye, while the left eye stayed on with each passing Azure Dragoon. Unfortunately, Thordan's story wasn't just told and retold, it was changed entirely. First of all, the story removed Ratatoskr's murder and betrayal. Instead, the tale claims that Nidhogg attacked them without remorse. This story is the story of a heroic ending for the king, and the story has become part of the scripture of the Holy See that rules Ishgard. King Thordan is told to be someone who seeks to lead their people to the Promised Land, as instructed by their patron saint, Halone, with Nidhogg attempting to prevent them from doing so. The story claims that Thordan fought for 7 days in an epic battle, which ended with his death and the death of half of his knights. It is said that Thordan was pushed into an abyss by his own men who were enthralled by Nidhogg, and that his son then took the king's spear and took only one of Nidhogg's eyes in revenge. This eye would be the one passed to each Azure Dragoon. The other eye, buried with the real Haldrath, was written out of history, as was the piece of the dragons that came with the union of Shiva and Heavensward. Fast forward to Heavensward, when we arrived at the reclusive city of Ishgard. Here, we meet Archbishop Thordan VII. While I couldn't find it anywhere, I personally believe each archbishop takes the name Thordan, so 2 through 6 were all in reign before Archbishop Thordan VII. Why do I think this? Because Thordan's own kid was not named Thordan. Where did 2 through 6 come from? If we average, say, 30 years per archbishop, you have around 180 years of rule, counting Thordan VII, of course. I also believe this is an inherited name of archbishops because of his history. Thordan VII is the 5th child of a lesser house who was pledged to House Durandare. He had to work and excel in his education and with the Holy See. This allowed him to become bishop at 42 and archbishop thereafter. Total tangent, you want to know how I tried to calculate this? The only way I could calculate when he became archbishop was with Emmerich, his own son. Emmerich is 32 in Heavensward, and Archbishop Thordan VII is 74. This means Emmerich had to be born when Thordan VII was 42. If Emmerich is 32 now, it would mean he was born between 1545 and 1546. This is presuming Heavensward takes place a year after a realm reborn, which is 1577. Thordan VII was named archbishop in the year 1560, 12 years before the Calamity and 17 years before a realm reborn. So, Thordan VII would have had to have been 56 when he became archbishop, trying those 14 years to keep the story of Emmerich a secret. Okay, back to the story of King Thordan. Through the events of Heavensward, we discovered the truth of King Thordan, Radatoskr, and what the archbishop plans to do. He decided he would summon and become King Thordan himself, just like Isael could become Shiva. To do this, he waits for the Warrior of Light to take down Bismarck, who holds the key to Azazla. He steals his key and makes his way to the floating ruins, where we chase him down. Upon arriving, we find that he actually took the coffin of Haldrath, the original Azure Dragoon and son of Thordan I, and brought it to Azazla. This way, with the power of the Eye of the Azure Dragoon and the Eye from the son of King Thordan I, as well as the prayers of all of Ishgard for over 1,000 years, Thordan VII became the primal King Thordan and used his own body as a vessel.
By taking unto my flesh the soul of the legendary King Thordan, I can become a god!
A god who knows not cessation, whose being is sustained by a millennium of fervent prayer, and the eye's nigh bottomless reservoir of ether.
He had intended to become King Thordan and absorb the power of the Warring Triad, making him unstoppable. The Warrior of Light had other plans, however, and ended the Primal King's short reign.
How can this be? A millennium of prayer and the eye's power combined, and still you stand. Who? What are you?
So that's it. That's the end of King Thordan, right? Well, not entirely. There is one more time we do come across the man, the myth, and the terrible difficult legend. If you are lucky and powerful enough to complete ultimate runs, you'll discover the 4th ultimate battle, the Dragon Song's Reprise. This battle is a retelling from the Wandering Minstrel, allowing you to change the course of history by saving your friend-in-arms Orshifon. In the original timeline, Orshifon died protecting the Warrior of Light, and we will never forgive the story for doing that. A smile better suits a hero, I know. But in this alternate retelling, we actually save him. Unfortunately, doing this has a cascading failure. If Orshifon doesn't pass on protecting us, and we do not use this action as a call to arms to stop Thordan the 7th, we arrive too late. At this time in this retelling, Thordan the 7th has already become King Thordan and taken the Aether of the Warring Triad. Due to this, he has an ungodly amount of etheric power, and uses it to start tempering the dragons. If he can temper the dragons, he can stop them without resistance. We instead meet King Thordan in Thal-Umkash, located in the northern region of the Churning Mists of Dravania. He successfully tempers the dragons, and you can actually see Vidofnir as one of his followers, declaring, "In the name of King Thordan," before leaving. Fun fact, Thal-Umkash roughly translates to crystal from regret. This crystal-infested area is said to be where the younger worm Ratatoskr met her end to Thordan the First and his knights. You might think that after this fight we stop the Primal King, but nope. In fact, to progress in the battle, you have to spare King Thordan's life. Before leaving, he leaves behind his greatsword, which holds the eye from the coffin. What happened in the main story happens again here. Estinian becomes possessed by Nidhogg and flees. We are again taken to the final steps of faith, where we battle Nidstinian. Unfortunately this time, Nidstinian uses the control collar technology from Azisla to enslave Hresvelgar, causing him to break his vow against his will, that vow being that he would not slay any man. Another fun fact, there's actually a mechanic in this phase that if any member of the team dies, it's a wipe. Hresvelgar goes into a rage for breaking his vow and killing a man. Literally, not a single team member can fall. Upon completing this phase, King Thordan returns. Unfortunately, both Orshifon and Isil are still alive. Remember, she didn't have to sacrifice herself for us to make it to Azisla, since we never went there to stop him from absorbing the Warring Triad. Another fun fact, if you actually have time to peek to the side of this arena, you can actually see Isil and Orshifon holding off hordes of dragons. King Thordan takes this chance to take in the power not only of Nidhogg's 2 eyes, but Hresvelgar's eyes as well. This transforms him into the Dragon King Thordan. After this, he destroys the final steps of fate, presumably killing Estinian and Alphinaud in the process since they could not flee in time. Your team follows him to Sorkai in the Churning Mists to commence the final battle. Sorkai is the location of the level 60 dungeon where you must prove your worth to Hresvelgar for his assistance in stopping Nidhogg in the original timeline. One more fun fact, according to the dungeon description, this is actually the home of Ratatoskr, left abandoned since her passing. The name Sorkai was given to this location by the rest of the dragons for not stopping her grim fate. It roughly translates to the grieving apology. Upon finishing this battle, King Thordan is finally defeated, and the souls of Nidhogg and Hresvelgar leave, completing the alternate retelling of the story. Whew! So there you have it! Be it in the history of Eorzea or in the minstrel's retelling, King Thordan sure has a story to share. What did you think? Did you enjoy the history of the primal King Thordan? And was there anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, y'all. Until next time, bye-bye!